I want to just read this Bible verse. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything that you do flows from it. And this is really important in the realm of relationships, because in the realm of relationships, we often end up hurting each other. Yesterday on our Faith Fusion Facebook page, I posted a TED Talk, which I encourage you to go on the Facebook page and watch. It's quite entertaining and revealing. And it's based on a study done by Eli Finkel, and it's called the marriage hack. Now, a hack means when you find one simple strategy that can have incredible impact on something. And so he's a man who studies about marriage, and he said, I found the marriage hack. So I thought, whoa, okay, gotta read this, or gotta watch this. So it's a 21-minute video, and he said the marriage hack just takes 21 minutes a year. You want to do it? Because you could actually not just apply this to your own marriage, but you could actually apply it to any relationship. And in it, he observes some interesting things. He has some research done by Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, and Love. And one thing that their research has observed is that, maybe 20 years ago, people had many more relationships than they do now. For instance, I don't know how many of you know all of your neighbors, but 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, it would have been common to know your neighbors. But maybe today you don't. To what extent do you live near your extended family? America's a big place, and I'm discovering with my own children how big America is. Because I have a daughter who lives on the West Coast and doesn't understand the 3-hour time difference when she calls me. But, we have, historically, communities have like many relationships. And so, one person can't satisfy all of your emotional or relational needs. But today, there's so much pressure on the marriage relationship because we may not have lots of other relationships. And so the woman who wrote Eat, Pray, and Love observed that we rely on our spouse for about 25 things. It's actually a lot. And so while when we enter the marriage state, many enter in marital bliss, actually this hotel that we're meeting in today for Faith Fusion actually is well known in the area for hosting weddings. So every week there are like tons of weddings that happen in this place. And when you see the weddings, they're all so beautiful. Maybe you'll bump into one as you leave today, and they're carrying bridesmaids' dresses and flowers, and everyone's so excited. And you start off the marriage state many times in kind of marital bliss up here. Unfortunately, after that is this kind of like slow decline. And actually through his research, he shows this slow decline in terms of satisfaction, desire to give, caring for each other. And he said, it's a shame that we wait till we're at the way bottom before we do anything about it. Because one of the threats sometimes husbands and wives throw at each other is, if you don't shape up, I'll make you go to marriage counseling. But we wait till like everything's kind of like in a difficult state. And he has this great quote from one of the presidents, Kennedy. And it says, when should you repair your roof? When the sun is shining. Because if you wait till it's raining, it's very difficult to repair your roof. And same with our relationships. We shouldn't wait until they're in this like devastated state in order to do something about them. So he asked, what is it that you can do? And so in order to study this, he followed a group of couples over a number of years and asked them just basic questions. Every 3 months or so, he would ask them basic questions about their relationship. And one of them was, what have you been fighting about lately, and how do you deal with it? And so people would report things like, I think one of them was like this guy saying, well, when I asked my wife, what did she just say, or what did she mean? She goes, how come you're not listening? He's going like, duh, I'm trying to. But, he explains that many times when you have a difficulty in a relationship, what happens is you build up water under the bridge, resentments over time, and so, the relationship is just deteriorating. And he thought, what could we do differently? So he had all these couples journal their experience with each other. And then he took half the couples, 50% of the couples, and he said, as well as journaling about each other, every 4 months, I just want you to take 7 minutes, and I just want you to, about each question, just write about if you imagined you were a third party observing this relationship, what would you think and what advice would you have for this couple? And how would you see their relationship? And this third party is a compassionate third party. He said that exercise alone changed the trajectory of these people's relationship. It's not like they had massive therapy or anything. And so where the 50% of the couples that didn't do this, their relationships, just their general satisfaction declined over time. The couples that did that simple marriage hack, actually they declined to a certain point, but then they kind of went like that. So he said, so actually as a way to deal with the fact that there are difficulties in a relationship, what would happen if those couples had done that at the beginning of their marriage? Could they have maintained that high? Could they have maintained the satisfaction that they originally held? Interesting question. Now when I saw this TED Talk, I go like, oh my God, compassionate third party, hello God. If we just took our relationship with God and tried to see each other from God's point of view, maybe that could be the difference that could actually really help our marriages. And that's exactly what Father Moon teaches us. And I just want to, this is like a little fun photo. He says, looking through each other's eyes, we saw love. But what about looking through, we'll take that to the next place because we're Faith Fusion and we have the divine principle. We'll say, how about looking through God's eyes, we saw love. But I want to talk a little bit about how to do that. We have the divine principle, right? And a couple of weeks ago, our series was called Deep and Wide. Remember that series? And we talk about 5 things that God uses to really develop ourselves, develop our faith, our trust in Him, and our love, right? We have those 5 things, and we have some little cards on the book table that details these 5 things to remind you. And the first one is, guess what? Practical application of God's Word. So it's kind of like the analogy we used is like, I know a ton about dieting. I know a ton. I even went for a McDonald's ice cream yesterday and knew it had 170 calories.
But you still had it.
But my knowledge has not changed my size. Because knowledge is one thing, but application is completely another. And so God doesn't want us to just know the divine principle. He wants us to apply it, because in applying it, we can transform our lives.